Hey guys, I'm going to be going over lessons 1 and 2 homework with you today. Since we combined the two lessons today in class, we're going to do one page from each lesson's homework. So we're starting off with page 1 from lesson 1, and it's asking us to draw a number bond and write number sentences to match each tape diagram. Okay, in example A, they've done it for us, so they're showing you, okay, if the whole is made up of 3 parts, that means each part is 1/3. But they've only shaded in 2 of the thirds, so right here, and they want to show you that 1/3 plus 1/3 is going to give you 2/3, which they represented here with the number bond with 2/3 at the top being broken into 1/3 and 1/3. So on part B, if we look at the whole, it's not thirds anymore. I count 1, 2, 3, 4. That means each one is going to be 1/4. And there's only 2 shaded parts, so when I add them together, 1/4 plus 1/4 will give us 2/4. So in my number bond, I'll have 2/4 broken down into 1/4 and 1/4. Okay, on part C, let's see how many parts we have total. So 1 is the whole, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that must mean it's broken into fifths, so that's 1/5. And here I'm going to label that 2/5 because you can see the little brackets underneath. Those 2/5 are grouped together. So that 1/5 plus that 2/5 that are grouped together gives you a total of 3/5. So my 3/5 is broken into 1/5 and a little group of 2/5. So we're just trying different ways to break down fractions. Here on D, the whole is broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. And you can see that the brackets are a little bit different. Here they have 3 of them grouped together. Here they have 2 6 grouped together. So when I add 3 plus 2, I get 5 6. 5 6 broken down into 3 6 and 2 6. Notice that when I add them, the denominator does not change, only the numerator, because I'm adding the parts. Okay, on E, we're going to count our parts. Looks like we have eighths here, and so you have 2 eighths that are grouped together, and this one little group, that's 1/8. So when I add my 2 eighths and my 1/8, I'll get 3 eighths total. And when I show that in the number bond, 3 eighths can be broken into a group of 2 eighths and a group of 1/8. Okay, and this last one's a little bit trickier because the whole, there's more than just the whole here. So we just look at the whole first to figure out what our fractional part is. So the whole is broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So these have to be fifths. And you're going to want to say 6 because there's 6 parts, but it's actually fifths because it's showing us that the whole is made up of 5 parts. So here, each one of those is a fifth, and that one is also a fifth, but it's just on a new whole. So here I have the 5/5 that make up the whole, and here I have the 1/5. Now it'd be different if the whole was drawn over the whole thing, but it's not. So that equals 6/5, which is obviously greater than 1, and that's broken into 5/5 plus the 1/5. You got to be careful with what's considered the whole here. Okay, now we're moving on to the first page of lesson 2 homework, because remember we combined those two this week. And so let's look at the directions. It says step 1, draw and shade a tape diagram of the given fraction. Step 2, record the decomposition as a sum of unit fractions. Step 3, record the decomposition of the fraction in 2 more ways. So here we have 5 6. This is the example they've shown us. And so what they did is they drew the whole and they separated into 6 parts, but they only shaded 5 to represent the 5 6. And then they wrote 3 ways to break it down. So they could have done 1 6 plus 1 6 plus 1 6 plus 1 6 plus 1 6. They could have done it in 2 groups of 2 and a group of 1, or you could have done 1 6 plus 4 6. Either way, it's 3 different ways that you could break down those 6. Either way, they all add up to 5 6 total. So we're going to do the same thing on part B. So what we have is, first we're going to draw a rectangle, and we're going to label it, or we look at the denominator for how many parts, which it says 8, so I'm going to split this into 8 parts. And I'm going to label that as my whole, counting to make sure, 8. Okay. Now, we only need to shade in 6. That's what our numerator tells us. The number on top tells us how many to shade in. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to be decomposing 6/8 3 different ways. So one way I could do this, let's do something easy. Let's do 1/8 and 5/8. So if I said 1/8, which is where that little green one is, and the 5/8, that will give me 6/8, because 1 plus 5 is 6. Another way we can decompose 6/8 is we could say 6/8 equals, let's do 2/8, these 2/8 together, and the rest we could say 4/8. So we could say 2/8 plus 4/8 equals 6/8. Okay, and one more way that we could decompose this. So I have 6/8 equals, and let's do, we'll do these 4/8 together. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. So I have these 4/8, and I don't have to always do it in two parts. I could do 4/8 plus 1/8 plus another 1/8, and that would still all add up to give you 6/8, because 4 plus 1 plus 1 equals 6. All right, last one. Part C says 7/10. So I need to draw my whole, and I'm going to split it into 10 parts because my denominator is a 10, which means that's the total number of parts it should be divided into. So I'm drawing my rectangle. I'm going to split it into 10, so I'm going to do half and make each half 5 parts. That's just how I think about it. Okay, so there's my whole, and now I need to shade in 7 because my numerator is 7. I only want to represent 7/10 of the whole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now I can break that 7/10 up however I want, as long as it's equal 7/10. So I'm going to say 7/10 equals, let's try 2/10, and the rest of that would be 5. So 2 plus 5 is 7, so 2/10 plus 5/10 equals 7/10. Okay, another way we could break this down is I could say 7/10 is equal to, let's do 3/10 and the remaining 4/10. So that would be 4/10. So 3 plus 4 is 7, so 3/10 plus 4/10, it's 7/10. It's a mouthful. All right, and one more way that we could do this is we could say 7/10 is equal to, let's use a different color. We'll just use this 1/10. And then the rest of the 6/10. So 1/10 plus 6/10 equals 7/10. All right, if you have questions, let me know.